Hello Uganda, good evening and welcome to the show On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. Now, the political journey to 2026 general elections is on full throttle. Today, the NRM are holding their primaries and we have seen high name recognitions falling short and new faces are coming up. But the elections of the primaries of NRM have not gone without violence. We have seen in some cases before today's election, some people have been killed, some people have been injured, some vehicles have been burnt to ashes. Can we have an election without violence? And so tonight we'll be asking, as we're building up for 2026 elections, are the political parties on track? I'll be introducing my panel very shortly. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Let me introduce my panel on this Thursday evening. I have retired Major Paula Awich, Director Foreign Affairs at NRM Secretariat. Thank you so much for joining us, Major Paula.
Good evening and greeting to my colleagues.
We have the Honorable Salam Musumba, who's a politician that you all know. Honorable Salam Musumba, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Kamara. Glad to be here.
We have Mr. Henry Kitambula, who's Deputy RCC Rubaga. Henry, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for viewing.
And last but not least, we have a lawyer and a political analyst, Mr. Andrew Karamagi. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure being here, thank you.
The last time I checked, Andrew, you're supposed to be somewhere in Harare. I didn't expect you to be in Kampala. But we're happy to have you back in Kampala.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you, Honorable Major Paula Awich, because you sit at the NRM Secretariat, and today your party has been holding primaries, and I'm sure you've been looking at the dashboard. Is it blinking red or blinking green? How is it?
Green.
Okay, so how did it go?
It went well. Now, I just want a slight comment on your introduction. You introduced my land brother as a lawyer and a political analyst. You stated his profession and his work. So I was thinking, and you introduced us professionally. You state all across.
Okay, you have an opportunity to do it.
I am a lawyer.
To do it even better than I could have done.
I'm a lawyer and I'm advocate. You know why, Kamara? There's a joke that NRM don't have brains. That even when you have brain, as you join, I see a cartoon saying they remove it fast. That is not true. So if you don't introduce my profession as a lawyer and an advocate, it's like NRM is underrepresented in terms of competence.
Did you realize?
So when you do it, do across.
Okay.
Do across.
But have you realized by not doing the same, you have now an opportunity to introduce yourself even better than I could have tried?
Yes. So that it demystifies, the members who think that our cadreship is incompetent. That even if you go there with competency, before you enter the gate, I've seen a cartoon of a doctor doing surgery. That is not true. We have cadres very competent and very disciplined. And therefore I thought I would bring that
My
out.
apologies, sir.
Now, your question again.
Yes.
On green, it's green. Of course, we all know that, especially in driving experience, on the dashboard, anything red is a sign of a problem. Green, it's okay. That is a principle used in driving technology, and it is applicable somewhere, everywhere else. Now, look, Kamara, NRM is a mass party, and being a mass party, it has succeeded in attracting many people across the country. Now, when you attract many people, you therefore have the challenge of internal democracy. As I have always said, is that when you try to solve a problem, you create another. You try to solve a problem of industrialization, you create pollution. But you're not going to run away from industry because you fear pollution. In Langese, there is a saying that you don't fear to plant cassava because you fear spear grass. You plant and weed it. Therefore, the party has struggled to have popularity and the popularity attracts a big number of people. The challenge now is how do we maintain internal democracy? Some parties would prefer a group of people sit in a room and they draw their criteria to choose their leadership. For us being a mass party, we have said, whoever joins, first of all, you have full membership, full rights. For example, if somebody crosses from NUC to NRM today and becomes a member, he assumes all the rights. Right to be elected and right to elect. So, now how do you handle this? It poses a challenge of internal democracy. Today, once again, we put it to test. That do we have the capacity to handle internal democracy? Remember, our smallest unit of a party is called a village. A village is a branch. Now, this village branch, we have 73,000 of them. And out of the 73,000 of them, we conduct election in each, more than the Independent National Election Commission, because the Election Commission puts it at the parish level. But we have 73. So conducting this mass election of 73,000 people, ideally, even if 100 villages went into quarrel, it would still have been a big percentage of success. Therefore, today is green light for us because we have put our internal democratic procedures to test, and we have seen it, of course, with lots of challenges, including logistics, arrival material late or not in time, but also violence. We shall do better next time.
Now that you talked about violence, let me go back. Even prior to today's polls, we have seen violence in many parts of Uganda, but we've also seen violence to the extent some people were shot dead, some vehicles were burnt, some people are injured and nursing wounds right now, and it's just an internal contestation for power. Must it be like that?
It should not be like that, of course.
Why is that the norm now?
No, why is it like that is because of multiple factors. First of all, the civic capacity of the population. You know that we are developing democracy. Some of the democracies we cite always, they are 500, 600 years. But we are developing this democracy under the new constitution alone. This is about, you can see count the number of elections from the constitution was passed in 95, and then the 96 was the first election under the constitution. So you see how young it is. So the civic competence, but also there's the material interest. People, especially at parliamentary level, people think it is an income generating activity.
You are a retired soldier and at the rank of a major. When somebody pulls out a gun to shoot another, you cannot just blame that on that we are a young democracy. These are senior officers.
I was still listing the factors, and you cut me short. I had just mentioned one. I was going to the second one. The second one, which could possibly answer your concern, is that I have said that the society still sees, especially at parliamentary level, as a sort of income. Kamara, if you hear that the ED of KCCA gets 40 million, you'd be surprised. But here is a house where out of about 500, an average is getting the 40 million. If you hear now that the EDC of URA or even Governor Bank of Uganda is getting 40 million, you get surprised. Governor Bank of Uganda is getting 40 million, but the guys are getting in parliament. So that also is one of the pulling factors that makes some people think it is do or die.
All right.
It's not really for going to serve.
Thank you, Paula.
So there are multiple factors.
Hold on to your point, Paula. Let me go to your neighbor, Salam Musumbra. You've heard Paula talking about 70,000, over 70,000 73,000 villages where they have on the ground. And that is sort of a political, war chest that if they deploy that in the general election with PFF, you have no way, do you?
You see, the logistical concerns of running an expensive election affects an entire country. It doesn't just affect a party. It's an entire country that we're talking about. And so we are not trying to win arguments here. We are looking at a nation and the way we are damaging it. with inefficiency at play, with corruption that has been rolled out into the countryside, with the military engaging with the citizens in a very violent way. It takes us back to where we said we would never be again. And so the gains of stability and the gains of the intellectual gains have all been eroded, and they've been lost because of this obese layout that is not even efficient at all. When I woke up this morning, I was expecting to see a better run election, because it has been hyped as having a register that was tamper-proof and that would give a fair chance to everybody that participated. But in the night, lorries and lorryfuls of soldiers had been deployed. And so I asked myself, this is a party activity. Who has deployed the army? And why? So the distortion gives an entire new generation of political observers a feeling that this mass party is not giving the country what it says it wants to do. Democracy at that cost. Because if you have, for instance, an average of 7 candidates, in the first place, they fail to have the joint campaigns that they had promised, and so everybody went for each other's neck, and so there is mayhem as far as family level. That mayhem doesn't just go away because the exercise is done. It leaves too many dynamics which lead to social disintegration. And so when you're talking about PFF and other parties being able to get engaged with the 72,000 villages, of course we do. But our membership comes from those villages. Honorable
Salam Musumba, contestation for power and the conflicts and the infights are bound to happen. Your own party, PFF, is born because some of you members could not agree with your colleagues in FDC.
That is no longer an issue to discuss.
It is, I'm trying to say, the conflict we see, the infights we see,
listen,
are sort of
looking at the political infrastructure in place, because if the infrastructure is wrong, it is going to give you wrong results. And this infrastructure, that's why empires collapse, because the infrastructure is not built for purpose. If you walked out today, as I came in from Kamali this evening, they say people have won. There's no celebration. Have you ever seen a win without a celebration? I mean, it's like a premonition. It's like the Bagandas call it a chevikiro. I mean, the eerie feeling in the villages, the bitter taste this has left them. There's nothing to be proud of a system, of a party that we loved. Because we loved the system of the movement before it morphed into an organization or a party. But even the NRMs themselves don't feel proud about this thing. It's now, who was the best thief? Is the one they are announcing this evening. The best robber, the best clobberer. You know, the guy who got the deer reforms. Somebody called me from Buyena and said, listen, somebody, instead of organizing people that support them, they are looking for the deer reforms. To declare themselves. I mean, how much fraud can you internalize and integrate into a society as fragile as ours and hope that democracy can have a day?
All right, let me go to you, Mr. Andrew Karamagi. You have seen the level of violence we have witnessed in the last couple of days prior to this election. What does that portend? What does that mean? What does that point to?
Patrick and colleagues and the viewers or those listening, narratives are very powerful things. And I do not want to sound like the student in an exam who raises the hand and says, "Teacher, the question is wrong." But please permit me to push back respectfully, to push back against the framing of this discussion, which wants to lock us as panelists and the viewers, listeners, into a false narrative that suggests that, one, there is a democracy in Uganda, that two, NRM, by whatever name called, is a political party, that three, the people who took part in what we saw today are voters, four, that you can have primaries where you do not have a political party. I would rather match a conversation where we engage in discussing the bullet versus the ballot, topics like the hybrid regimes, elections in hybrid regimes, better yet, the Museveni state, so that we do not treat what we are not suffering from, and instead of getting the right medicine, increase the dosage for the wrong diagnosis. I recognize the weight of the task that I have set myself by making such a seemingly blanket opening statement, but there is tons and miles of analysis, some of which I have carried with me, by Ugandan scholars and scholars from reputable institutions across the world, to show that what we have here cannot be discussed within the frame of a democratic process at the most basic level. It's been 40 years of this experiment or of this charade. I think when Ugandans stay up late at night to listen to us, we need to provide them with a frame of analysis that contests the question from the right perspective. So please permit me to contend that this is a false narrative, and we should provide the proper foundation for it if we are to arrive at the correct analysis.
Yeah. Okay, I can see you sort of want to set your own question, but let me give you leeway to do this, so that you can make your own diagnosis of what the problem is, and then perhaps you can tell us what kind of healing knife is going to help. What's the diagnosis?
The diagnosis
from Dr. Karamagi.
The diagnosis is that this is not a democratic process. What you're dealing with, as I said earlier, is the bullet versus the ballot. Because to win, to use that word loosely, has not been about what your policy propositions are, what your ideological outlook is, or what your track record has been insofar as the management of public affairs has been in this country. It's been about who has the means or the capacity to threaten violence. We've seen enkoni, in my local language, herding sticks being delivered in many of these places. We've seen people being shot, and that's what determines who wins, as well as wads of money being distributed as the materials that will help one secure a win. So it's not so much about policy proposals, it's not so much about ideology, it's about...
So how do you reconcile the fact that in some cases, generals, four-star generals with the instruments of coercion and people to guard them have also fallen flat before when they are competing with purely civilians?
That's the point, that a general comes to an election as a general, and so you are posing the question, why would a general lose? But we've seen...
No, I'm saying because your analysis is that this is not democracy, this is a bullet versus the bullet, and if those who have the guns will carry the day, but in some cases they have also fallen flat.
Well, in the historical timeline that has been the fraud that is the NRM party, we've seen established godfathers like Mr. Sam Kutesa be defeated by what you would call novices then, like Theodore Sechikuwo. So it's a question of who at a given point in time possesses either more money, more firepower, or who has a godfather or godfather somewhere and wants to defeat whomever it is that this is targeted at. So it's not the kind of process that you would label an election. Because, and I'll end with this, an election, the word election comes from elect, which means to choose. Choosing presupposes that you have freedom. If I give you one option and tell you to choose that one option, you don't have a choice, much less the capacity to decide and say, we want this person and not this one. There has been a result, I am sure that you will broadcast, where someone who got no one in their line caused a fracas because they were declared, and as we speak right now, there's an abeyance as to who has won that election. So all these things, so-called election, so all these things point to the fact that we're discussing something outside of what should be the case.
Henry Hitambula, I'm sure I can see you carefully and keenly listening to Mr. Andrew Karamagi there. He's poking holes into the whole NRM thing, and it is not a political party, it is something else, and that today people are not even given a choice.
Let me preface this with this. The NRM, in my opinion, is three things. It's an alliance of illicit interests, ethnic interests, three, military interests. If we are to define a political party, the NRM does not qualify. It is best defined by those three connections: money, violence, and ethnicity.
Mr. Henry
It depends on how you see things. The good thing you said is your opinion. But first of all, to state the record very clear, NRM is a political organization with a structure, with a leadership, with the membership, with ideology, and
It is registered.
yes,
What is your ideology?
not only being
for
registered,
instance?
but the other components that I've mentioned. When you look at the leadership of the party at the village level alone, of the 30 people per village, times the 73 villages.
73,000.
I mean 73,000 villages. You have 2.19 leaders alone, not members, for the villages we have in Uganda. So you can't take that leadership at the village for granted. When they were electing the structures, I made an average basing from my area, Rubaga. Rubaga, on average, you had around 150 members turning up for voting. Now, if you
Is that at every polling station? Or?
An average at every village, because every village is a polling station.
Okay.
During the structure elections, now if you take that for the entire country, you are talking of almost 11 millions of members. So that is really a big part. Now, we must look at the real problem, not only the NRM. I saw FDC some time back getting involved in a serious scuffle at the Najanankombe. During DP elections, I saw a lot of violence. Then I come to NOP. We know what has been happening there. So we need to ask ourselves, why is this happening across all of the parties, not only the NRM? One,
the violence in NRM is infectious.
It's because they have the biggest number, maybe. One, when you look at the nature of our leaders, many leaders come into elections with only one strong word: win. I must win. The losing is not part of them. So they tend to incite the members. Whatever reason they give, the moment they say, for me, I have the support, whether you like it or not, I must win, and others must lose, then that's where the challenge is. And we need really to handle this.
Okay.
I've been in the elections of these primaries of today. And first of all, I called the parties, the candidates, and I told them, now, all of you are from one party. You don't incite your people. Accept defeat. And everybody was telling me, we shall accept just in case there is fairness. The good thing, my counseling yielded some results, because we have not had any chaos, any violence in the division of
It could also be, with all respect, Mr. Kitambula.
Is he a party official?
I'm the head of security. I'm the head of security.
A chairman of NRM.
I'm the head of security.
But there's no distinction. That's the point I'm making.
I'm the head of security.
I get it.
And at times when you are a Catholic, the good thing, you and I are Catholics. If you're Catholic, you may not really...
But one of the reasons, I suppose, there's no violence in Kampala, with all respect, is that because getting a flag in Kampala perhaps doesn't mean anything.
Why not?
Does it mean that in some NRM strongholds you get a flag? It means perhaps it'll take you to parliament.
No,
but here you still have, the battle is still very strong.
Patrick, you're letting him run away with something that you've said, that this is a state party, because here is a head of security. Yes, here is a head of security in the quote unquote of the state, commenting on authoritatively and descending into the arena of partisan political ideally he's bad. Yes, he is.
For his information, even the members of the opposition have always been sitting them down. You come, make sure once this happens, accept, and you have peace in the division. So it's not only for NRM. I've engaged many political actors from the opposition.
Okay, let me come back to you, Major, because you're a public official. You're supposed to be non-partisan,
and that's. I know my mandate, my brother.
Yes.
I know my mandate. But what is also,
in your preamble, you're actually showing us that you are an NRM functionary.
What is also very important to understand is that the way our people perceive competition, as I said earlier, they come with the perception of only winning. It has even happened even in this sports fraternity. You find one team, because they have scored or it has lost, you see the supporters causing violence and attacking the supporters of other teams. But for them in football, they have at least controlled it. There are penalties I think even the parties should set serious penalties if you're a candidate.
Okay. Let me come back to Major Paula Awich.
Cause violence, then you must be disqualified.
Major Paula Awich, I mean, Ugandans are going to be concerned that if they are going to see this kind of violence in just primaries, in an internal party election, then probably also going to strengthen our back and our butts. The batons are going to fly. The batons are going to fly in the next couple of months as elections really begin full throttle. Because this is like a dry rehearsal of what you're going to do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have fully answered the question I will answer, but permit me just a minute to comment on what my other colleagues have said. First of all, on the question of the head of security, the bar of a civil servant or a public servant, the bar is clear. The bar is to the extent clearly contesting as a candidate or campaigning, where campaigning means you are going to open campaign or to support a political candidate. But I don't think the bar extends to, say, an RDC giving an opinion in a particular case. And he has said that he is giving this, and even tomorrow he can give if, for example, their party had issues in his jurisdiction. So I think the bar that you're extending is so minimal, so blanket. And I don't think you'd extend that bar if, for example, he had talked bad about NRM. Possibly you'd clap. You'd clap because he has talked bad. But because his opinion now seems not to be bad against the party, you say there's a bar. No, the bar in law is clear and explicit. It's not a general bar that he should keep quiet.
And I think Major Honorable Salam Somba here knows it, because when they were handling their registration in Jinja, I was there as a deputy RCC. In Warukuba, they fought and had to go and save the situation. So I do it too.
Okay, all right. Okay. Very quickly before we take a break, yes.
Well, that's not really true.
Secondly, on my colleague's opinion, good enough he says it is opinion. His opinion and the opinion of other writers, I mean,
it's factual.
Scholars are all over, whether you are in Harvard or wherever it is, that is your opinion. But what qualifies a thing here to be a political party? We have laws governing that. If it is not a political party or a political organization, it wouldn't even qualify to file a candidate. So in our opinion, and especially as members, we have met the basic checklist of a political organization. And if we had not met it, we wouldn't even qualify to nominate candidates. So whoever is sitting in Harvard and uses these criteria of what a party looks like and whether we meet it or not, that is his opinion, can sit with it in Harvard University.
What if they're from
But for us, we meet the checklist, and that's why I said registration, because it's a bottom checklist that for you, right now we have about 29 political parties and organizations in Uganda registered with the Electoral Commission. So if you are saying our Electoral Commission registered an animal, which is called NRM, which is not a political party, then you can petition Electoral Commission. But for us who are in it, the Constitution provides that there shall be a political party or organization. So we meet the requirement of a political organization, and we have registered as such, and we are participating in that vehicle of NRM, which is a political organization. If anybody in Harvard has his opinion, that is opinion. Now,
some of the professors are from Makerere. I don't know if that will affect your answer.
I mean, even if the professor was from Rachtora, that is a professor, and that is his opinion. So does it matter whether the professor is from Makerere, from UCU in Mukono, or from Rachtora? That is his opinion.
It's factual.
If that professor thinks we are not, and yet we meet the legal requirements and what forms a political party, which enables us to participate in the political arena of Uganda as as a political party, including fielding candidates, then let the professor keep his opinion.
What if it's factual, Major?
Now,
it's based on research.
Then he could as well apply for us to be deregistered. And that professor thinks so.
Okay.
No,
but you don't want the dialogue.
I heard you and I was taking notes. I hope you will take notes also.
I am.
Now, your question is whether what has manifested today shows another sign for the future. Is that your question?
Mm-hmm. Not only today, but even prior to today, we have seen a lot of violence.
Yes. First of all, it is regrettable that violence occurred. We had anticipated this as a party, particularly as top management of the party at the Secretariat. And we had an inbuilt safety measures because we knew the stakes are high. We knew this is a popular party. We knew this is a party everybody would want to have a position. So we had provision for security. Yesterday we met all security heads in the country and we requested them because the law provides that whatever you do in the country, the police work is to maintain law and order. Law and order, Kamara, means if you're going to church, go and pray in peace. If you're going to Anjenua, go and dance in peace. If you're going to conduct your NRM primary, conduct in peace. So we ask for it. So whatever has happened today, if there is violence, it is only a learning point for us, or even for the National Electoral Commission, to know that Ugandans are likely to post violence. So the Independent Electoral Commission, for us, we are past that stage. So it is them to learn, and good enough they have a component of budget in their security. But it has happened, or it normally happens, but we learn from it.
All right, gentlemen and lady, we're going to take a break, and on the spot we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest this evening, I have the retired Major Paula Awich. I have Henry Kitambula, the Honorable Salamu Sumbra, and Mr. Andrew Karamayi. And we're looking at building up for 2026 elections, the political parties on track. And we've already had from the panelists here, especially Mr. Karamagi, that what we have in NRM is not a political party. The Honorable Salamu Sumbra, I don't know, you are from a party that is very new.
The baby party.
That's a baby. You're making baby steps and you're having teething problems. And yet you're expected to compete
we will.
at the highest level. So what are your chances really that in these murky waters that even people in the same family are fighting amongst themselves tooth and nail, that you can even have a fighting chance?
We do have a fighting chance. And we seek to influence the political space. And the choice we've made is deliberate. We are giving Ugandans a voice and a choice. And those are the parameters of democracy that we believe in. If you were to compare us with a mass party, a communist infrastructure that is being touted as the best thing that happened on the planet, what does it offer? Those big numbers of leaders, they said 30 in each village, when villages are so unorganized, villages are so unled, you know? Just take a walk on any village and just see the noise in the night. They can't even make a bylaw to say that the dancing will stop at a decent hour. Or don't do this, do this. Social organization. Politics is not just yapping the way the 30 members of the village are, or occupying space. It's to influence the organization of a society. And so under NRM, what do we see with their 30-30? Empty space. If they were well organized, I can assure you that they would be doing better than the independent parish chiefs, making sure that communities were well organized and communities were resourceful. But if you look at the UBOS reports, poverty permeates everywhere with their 30-30 per village. Crime permeates everywhere. Kids don't go to school with their 30-30. You will walk into any village tomorrow morning and half the kids, school-going kids, are not going to school. You will have early pregnancy permeated everywhere. So where are your 30 leaders per village? The 72,000, 2.1 million, where are they? So the whole construct is wrong. And apart from throwing around statistics or big numbers, there's empty value in them all. And the statistics we have about poverty, about distortions in the community, breakdown in family, breakdown in society, are all indicators that all is not well and that their leaders are misleaders. Or at best, they're occupying space. You see, in NRM, you occupy space so that when allowances come, you are eligible. That's their parking yards for allowances that are thrown at them in all sorts of seminars, meetings, and such. But for real high quality leadership, it is really lacking. So what is our chance? Our chance is that we want to provide platforms for engagement in serious reorganization of society. Not just having big communist meetings that say nothing about the lives and the quality of life of a community. If we didn't think we could impact the community, we won't engage.
Then you're operating in a democratic system where you think you have a chance, you can do what you want to do.
It's not democratic.
But at one point you think you can influence.
We will
at one point you think.
Let me tell you, we will have a fighting chance. We will provide that platform to ourselves.
But that's
democracy. No. Democracy is more than that. Don't make it elementary. It's deeper than that. It's wider than that. It's deeper than that. It is the quantum of it is what we don't have the space and time to say about it. But we have made a choice as PFF to make our contribution to society against all odds, and count on us any day. That's why I'm here.
But even 200 years of democracy in the United States, just the other day, a presidential candidate you survived by a whisker. A bullet was almost to get into his head. He's now president. I mean, you know, Uganda is only 60 years. For heaven's sake, you can imagine our democracy is still a work in progress. If the Americans can still struggle and the British can still struggle, who are we not to struggle?
And so we are struggling. But the framework in which we are struggling is so unbalanced, is so uncooked, it's so raw, that for a man who missed a bullet by a whisker, there were mechanisms to get the aggressor. For us here, ordinary souls are beaten just by lining up. They are assaulted. I have a man from my district who was shot.
What I'm trying to say is that in a rough and tumble of a presidential campaign, there are some rough times and moments of madness that some things can happen. Things can go south, like in America, things did go south in some way.
But they do not become the norm. Every 5 years you can expect NRM to beat its people up. Every 5 years you expect. It has become the tradition of democracy under NRM. And that's why, if you walked in Kampala here, you would think that somebody died.
Okay.
And that it wasn't even an election taking place.
Andrew,
so please, don't think normally in an abnormal situation. That's what you're trying us to do.
Okay, Andrew, in the fact that there is semblance of a constitution, there's a timetable for elections. There are people like you, if you think things are not right, you actually have an opportunity to seek some kind of redress, maybe go the legal way. So what would be the redress for the problem that we have after making that analysis? What would be the way out?
Well, Patrick and colleagues, the way out for me is to first concede the diagnosis and say this is actually correct. We should not treat a headache, yet there's the greater malaria. So, having agreed to that, one of the first ports of call that we should dock at is we need to deconstruct the Museveni/NRM state. What do I mean?
But how?
That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to share. The NRM cannot exist outside of the state of Uganda. It is built along or within.
It's a creeper.
It's a creeper. Yeah. These plants we learned about in science school that climbs on two others and gains nutrients, light, and so on. Because to my left, my elder brother here is an RCC who is playing a dual role, and you could say that from the lowest levels, be it intelligence, be it revenue collection and mobilization for the regime, be it decision making,
even fishing.
At every level, the NRM permeates the state, and so what you have is a hydra of sorts that at once bears both identities and chooses which one to rely on when it's convenient. So that deconstruction has to happen. And how does it happen? We've seen from our neighbors to the east, Kenya, in the years 98, 99, 2000, up to 2003, where chiefly the Law Society, the student movement, the religious institutions came together and formed a movement that read the Riot Act to Daniel Arap Moi and began organizing for transition. I would like to emphasize this because an election, which you are talking about, in 2026 cannot be the way to resolve any of the issues here. We are at a flashpoint where we must arrive at some kind of national discussion that allows us to talk to each other, not shoot at or beat each other up, so that we have a transition from this fraud that we insist on making perpetuating. Yeah. And it leads us to the same very problem at the end of the day, so that even my brothers here, my elder brothers here who are in support of this situation are themselves affected, as we've seen in the field.
So you're talking about some kind of a national dialogue, truth-telling to each other, but you really expect that the NRM is going to sit with you and dialogue themselves out of power?
There has to be a balance of terror, and I use that word deliberately. There has to be the threat of mutually assured destruction, as the citizens of Kenya showed Moi and said, we are not accepting any other option except discussion, because if we don't, the cost will be higher. The cost to you will be higher. Now, there are things we can enact, laws that put in place or policy documents that guide how this national dialogue should happen, but NRM should be told, in whatever capacity exists, this ghost, this phantom, should be told that this country is bigger than them.
Henry Kitambula, that kind of thinking, I'm sure, must be sending a cold chill down your spine.
My only problem with my brother here, you introduce him as a political analyst. but he's a political analyst who is very biased because he's looking at only NRM. Yet the other parties are also having a lot of issues. In fact, the question you said, are the political parties on track? Definitely not. Because what they always peddling lies against government, against NRM, and also looking at the president as maybe their own issue that they should always talk about from time to time, forgetting that even the situation is talking about in Kenya, those alliances that were formed, those alliances like the NAC, like the NASA, those alliances had leaders who were not opportunists. Then secondly, they had an arrangement of power sharing and so on and so forth. So that's why some of them succeeded. I want this to point at their own political parties. She's from PFF, which you are calling a baby party. And when they were in the FDC then, they were choosing retired Major General Mugisha Muntu of being a mole. And he was also telling them that you people are opposing your style of operation. What I want is building of the party structures. So recently, if you have forgotten, Bwana Patrick, they made a cooperation and PFF. Now, they are one party. When you go, they are in a cooperation. When you go to NOP, which is equally not very old as a party, they had their own Mpuga who also left them and formed another party. In less than actually 5 years, when you look at the DP, the same. So to me, we would look at the general view of these parties ahead of the general elections. Are they prepared? Or they are simply talking about NRM here, NRM there, President 7 years, President. I think they should really look at their political parties. We also feel not good seeing, I don't know whether you know what we call a seesaw. When we were young, we used to use the seesaws. So NRM is down and has lifted all these political parties up. So he's almost throwing them from the political scene. So they should address that. Now, Honorable Salam Swamba, the 30 people per village. These are not, they don't have administrative powers. They are purely NRM leaders who are supposed to mobilize for the party. They are not in the other structure of local government where you was the chairperson, because she was mixing the two. The other local leaders whom you worked with.
You say a leader is a leader.
Whom you worked with.
That's the English meaning.
Whether you made an impact with them or not in Kamuli. But what is important to know is that those ones at least have some administrative powers. So they are not like these ones who are mostly doing party work.
Thank you, Henry.
Which law establishes those leaders?
NRM leaders at the village. It's with the constitution of the party.
Which law establishes
those are party structures?
Yes,
those
yes.
Are party structures.
I'm getting to something. Which law then establishes the position of RCC?
The constitution.
The constitution.
The KCC Act. For the district, the Local Government Act.
So at what?
And those laws do not establish the NRM 30 people at the structure. It is the party constitution.
So at what point do you intervene as RCC?
As
spokesperson outside of the police?
I had security. And all of those security organs you're seeing, I'm their chairperson. So anything that touches security, whether food security, whether diseases, epidemics, or so on and so forth, I'm supposed to come in. That's why during COVID, you heard that the RDCs were the heads of the task forces.
All right.
So you cannot, either way, you cannot knock me out.
The confusion.
That's the point.
Intellectual confusion.
Okay, Paula, I just want to look, Mr. Karamagi has talked about the element of maybe having a conversation as Ugandans on how we can move forward. And in fact, his idea is not far-fetched, because I remember just before COVID, there was a thinking that we should have a national dialogue, and the NRM was even buying into it. It looks like it is a view that is gaining traction and has a lot of meaning. What do you make of that?
I make of it, but permit me once again to mention in a minute what my colleagues have said. Then I come to your question, and I've proved I can do that. One, on the question of village, Honorable Musumba says that we have these leaders, and yet the village is not organized. So I don't know how she wants the village organized, either in terms of streets, that the houses in the village should be built in order, in a line, and the roads should be straight. I don't know what kind of organization.
Of course, she doesn't.
But what I know is that the leadership that is provided for the village as a unit. Remember, one of the intention is that the villages form an organization called a parish, and it is in this parish that we have had economic activities. So what we are calling PDM. Without these villages which form parishes, we wouldn't even be having the PDM. Maybe it would be designed in another way, would be designed another sort. Two, so the mere fact that it is a unit to form a bigger unit itself, it works. Two is that if you go into the village activities, the prevention of security in the village, to know who is a wrong person in that village, even the villages where they sell land, to know that this is a bona fide seller and a bona fide purchaser. These leaders are doing their work together with the local government leaders. And that is why we have had peace throughout the country, because the village units are intact and they are alive to situation. So to insinuate here that villages are not organized is a fallacy. They are organized, they transact, they make sure that if you went to a village to buy land, Kamara, these villagers, through leadership, tell you the truth. Okay. So I want to rest it at that.
This is not the absence of war.
One at a time.
Two is that on the issue of my friend talking of his proposition, first of all, he is saying this NRM thing lacks democracy and it is not a political organization. But this is an organization holding the party now, that even him can come here on a public TV and call for violence. And I'm sure he's going to sleep. You know, he's calling for an uprising, that the people should come up and do violence, in his own words. And the democracy that organization is accusing, he's saying you're free to talk. Two, I also want him to know that we shouldn't take that path. That path is talking, the path of illegality, the path of violence, because the movement itself is a birth of revolutionary violence. And throughout these years, you very well know, Kamara, that apart from just mere calling of a demonstration of violence, we have had people take up arms from the whole north, east, Kasese, everywhere, and that did not yield any fruit. So I don't know his call for violence on the street vis-a-vis the wars that have gone on, which one is more likely. But it's suffice to say that that organization that is non-democratic can grant him an audience to call for violence on a TV. Now, about the negotiation, many people have been calling for that, including Honorable Mao, who is now the Minister of Justice. I don't know when he came to cabinet whether he's still interested or interested in the talk or is now okay with it. But the point here is, power belongs to the people, Article 1. Now, when people exercise their power and elect a government, it will take a little effort to say, you people, you have exercised your power, you have elected a government, but you abandon that, come to this. I wish them good luck. But it is another, you could see that it is from the opposition, having participated in the election and losing, they want to go through another window to get power out. That the people using Article 1 of the Constitution have participated into a general election, which is free and fair, and they have formed this government. Now, if that was to be the case, then it would be in a perpetual agitation for change of government. Today they elect this, tomorrow we go through another window to negotiate it out. But I don't think NRM is hard and frozen about hearing other views. That views is entertained and we wish it well. In fact, if I was sent as an NRM delegate to sit in that, I would be as flexible as possible to listen to such views. But take note that it is another way of circumventing Article 1, where the people have already exercised their right and they have chosen and formed a government.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, I run a risk of having started a show on Thursday and ending it on Friday. I don't want to do that. So this is what we're going to do. Honorable Salam Musumbra, I'm going to give you some good time to make your concluding remarks, and then we'll go like that and come back to Paula.
Well, I find this discussion as a stunted one from the NRM. They are rationalizing, they're not growing the latitude and the space to engage. There's no election, for instance. There's no power to the people. The people are being bought. For instance, in my village, people are running after 2,000 the other side, 5,000 this side. The decision is made by money, you know, and it's because our people have been impoverished and disempowered for over 4 decades, that such a people cannot be called exercising their free will, and that therefore they have elected. No, they haven't. And so when we go back to the fundamentals of what constitutes democracy, what constitutes free will, you find us wanting. I believe the time has come, if they haven't seen, where they'll have to negotiate, NRM has to negotiate itself out of the position they're in and allow Uganda to transit past them. And so that time is not very far. It might be in the next 3 months. And what you'll see is more agitation. The symptoms of it will be that there will be more militarization of the space. You'll see more violence. And all those don't say that this is peace. If you don't see it physically, you are going to see more deployment of the military in the night. And unfortunately, the community you are going into is equally tired of being treated to the same nonsense every 5 years.
So she has talked about, as we're concluding, in fact, she has started another something very important. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end. But the issue of transition, Mr. Karamagi, you know, a peaceful transition of power, because this country has not even had one ever since, maybe even from the colonial government, it was not peaceful. So what will it take for Uganda to have a transition of power from one leader to another, something we have never tested?
Yes.
As you're concluding back.
I will conclude as a young person. I was going to share a passage from one of the books here, but I think the point has been made. The truth is brief. It doesn't have to be overstated. I will conclude as a young Ugandan, particularly because on this show I am the youngest.
How do you
I presume I am the youngest on this show. and there's 78% or more outside this studio watching who belong to the same demographic. When I see our age mates in other continents, in other African countries, Morocco and elsewhere, discovering vaccines, leading blue chip companies, advancing in areas of study, law, medicine and so on, and I see my fellow Ugandans mired in family rule, military rule, and this kind of country that offers no opportunity, my conclusion is that it rests upon us as young people to organize ourselves and throw off the yoke of this repressive state and fashion a new approach to governing ourselves that will deliver the kind of country that we aspire for. It's clear to us, at least we know what the challenge is. It is upon us to make that change happen and not go in the direction that we've seen other countries, for which there's a plethora of examples, have gone and deliver the Uganda that we actually want to live in and thrive in. Not just live in, but thrive in.
Henry, your party short.
First of all, it's not true that we have a military rule in Uganda, because I work for government. I must state that very clearly. There is no military rule for this country. Number two, I think NRM is mindful of the transition, and the party and the leadership will follow the constitutional means. But I think it's not also right to say because you want transition, then we should just carry power and give you. That one we cannot do. That's why the president always goes down to ask Ugandans for the mandate. In any case, many Ugandans fear these people because they see how they are disorganized, they see how they are behaving, they don't have anything to do with the policies that can keep this country moving, then politicking. So that's why at times they say, okay, I think this NRM chairperson can still deliver. And I have no doubt even where we are going, the NRM people have already decided they are waiting for just endorsement in the National Leaders Conference of their party.
All right. Thank you, Henry. And so, Paul, I have the last word, and please make it very brief.
I'll make it brief. I really want conclusion, but let me comment with our youngest member here. That yes, it is good when you are young, you are really fresh, and you have dreams and wishes. Even some of us were even more radical when we were young, because for me, even schooling, I schooled after a struggle, after a war already. You know, by O level, I was a lieutenant, senior 5 in Tari school. But I came to Makere, I got a captain after law degree.
We are talking to delinquents.
I had already fought, so it is good to be that young.
You give him some ideas?
But it is also good to know.
I'm taking notes.
It is also good to know that the old ones have survived many situations which should be celebrated. We have survived cholera, diarrhea, malaria, gunshot, motor accident, plane crash. So I think I'm happy with the age, because I have seen some people are not survive diarrhea. We have survived and survived. So be young, but also celebrate those who have survived. They have seen it.
We are in diarrhea.
And that is,
can you imagine?
Yes, and that is why they said, what an old man can see while sitting, a young man may not see even when he's climbing a tree. So celebrate your youth, but celebrate the old.
The bar is so low.
Now, my conclusion on this is that as a party, we are put to test our methods of internal democracy. Of the 73,000 villages, we have tried our best. Let's sleep over the night. We see the result tomorrow. And where we have fallen short, we shall make it better.
All right, thank you very much. Retired Major Paula Wich, Honorable Salamu Sumbra, Mr. Andrew Karamagi, and Mr. Henry Kitambula. I want to thank you so much for your submission. I know you disagree sometimes, but not because you hate each other, but I suppose because you love your country more.
I advise him to also read positive books with the positive information. He likes only negative.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of On the Spot. Good night and God bless Uganda.